And jumping on in, we can see we're about halfway through, give or take. Some very familiar picks if you happen to have watched our first series. It's going to be an Ogre Magi, which we saw played in both games of our first series, and then Brewmaster to follow. Ogre really has just been looking so good almost every time I see him played anymore. But LV going with arguably, in my opinion, my favorite support pick, just because he can be run as a core. You can do a lot with him, the Jakiro, and they pair him up with a Slark and an Abaddon.
Yeah, this looks like an EG draft, to be quite honest, with Jakiro,
really
Slark, Abaddon. Yeah, Abaddon is a fantastic support. It's fallen out for quite some time, but it's starting to slowly gain a resurgence again. The great thing about Abaddon is that his shield not only mitigates damage, but it also does damage, and it also removes slows or stuns, many slows and many stuns. So it's just kind of like an all-in-one ability. And as long as your Abaddon player, Abaddon, however you want to say it, is competent enough to, you kind of have to anticipate the ganks before they even happen. As long as you're very aware, always ready with your TP scroll off cooldown, it's one of the more effective supports in the game if played correctly. And then here's a Witch Doctor, so that will probably be an offlane Jakiro. Yeah, this is looking very EG-esque.
Oh yeah, and I'm really loving. You know, it's fun to see EG run it because they kind of have their own swagger about the way they do things. But this composition that we're seeing so far, especially with the Jakiro, even if he's not going to be farmed as a true core, he's at least going to be getting a lot of levels under his belt. And you can make the argument that Jakiro with levels is one of the most high-value supports in the entire game. The power of Ice Path, if he's able to get a lot of points into that early. And very commonly what you see is a 1-1-1 kind of an approach. And then, of course, maxing the Liquid Fire to begin, just because of how much damage it really does output in early phases of the game, not just against towers, which is the obvious usage, but just being able to peck away at supports, being able to deal out damage with something other than right-click and other than your macro pyre in early team fights. So love seeing the Jakiro given that kind of an attention. Then the Witch Doctor and the Slark, two heroes that excel very, very well at moving across the map. You give them farm, they can do a lot with it as well. And I just think this is a very well-balanced composition from LV, but TongFu's got the answer. It's going to be the silencer. So you're talking two very high caliber silences, one single target in the Doom and one just map wide from the silencer.
Yeah, if I remember correctly from the last times we've been casting TongFu, I feel like their drafts have actually always been pretty good. Like, I've always looked at their drafts and like, wow, this looks pretty good. And if I remember correctly, there's a number of drafts where I'm like, oh, they definitely won this just off the draft alone.
Right.
It's just where they execute. The execution doesn't seem to quite be there for whatever reason, but or maybe communication. I definitely remember some communication issues, as that tends to be the issue, the main issue for newer teams or teams that just aren't quite there yet. But that being said, I like their heroes. I mean, Ogres, we saw in the last series, this hero is like one of the best support heroes, and for good reason, gaining lots of popularity. Brewmaster, nothing wrong with that. Doom's a top pick. Silencer's pretty good, although I actually don't think it's like that great here. Normally, you want to see Silencer against like Whoa, and that's an interesting pick. I'll just stop right there.
Yeah, I got to admit, I think it's a little ballsy from LV to draft the Timbersaw right into a Doom. Timbersaw, I mean, he's tanky and he's a pain in the ass, but the way the hero works is he wants to be able to spam his abilities, just fly across the face of a fight. He's an excellent primary initiator, just someone who can get in and take all of the bruising early on. But if he's blinked and doomed, he's just kind of out of the fight. And then off of that, if you have the potential to blink with a Doom and a Brewmaster, those two going in at the same time to start a fight, a clap catches 2 or 3 heroes. As soon as the split happens, you throw the silence. What in the hell are you even going to do?
I mean, it all sounds very good on paper. It's just
exactly.
It's a whole other thing executing. And I thought, honestly, before the anti-mage pick, I was like, this is on these... It's erring on the side of greedy. It's almost kind of getting there. And now I'm like, whoa, this is really greedy. Silencer does output a lot of damage. If you can maneuver yourself around fights quite nicely, that's just the key problem. Is he's very squishy. Ogre's no problem with that. Like, he will go into a fight, balls to the wall, because he's very tanky. So I was liking their draft until the anti-mage pickup. I just don't think it's like, I don't know. I don't think they want to be 4 protect 1. Like, this is like kind of a fighting lineup once they get the blink on Doom, and then I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how it pans out, though.
Yeah, one thing that stands out on both sides, much more so on LV, than on TongFu, but still very true for TongFu. It's just how tanky these lineups happen to be. I mean, you want to talk about survivable heroes? How about an Abaddon? How about a Timbersaw? How about a Jakiro with one of the highest strength gains on any support in the game? Slark, of course, with Shadow Dance could slide out of trouble, and Witch Doctor with his heal can keep himself and his team alive. On the other side, Silencer not quite as much, but Ogre, excellent strength gain as well. Naturally becomes tanky HP-wise. The Brewmaster, always going to be tough to bring down. Doom very often tanks up, regardless of what his item build is. And then Anti-Mage, if not tanky, at the very least is elusive. He's able to blink. He's able to get out of trouble a lot. So when the fights do happen, I think we're going to see them drag out quite a bit, and we're going to see a lot of back and forth. And sometimes you just look at two compositions, and this has the feel to me, Trouf, of one of those games that could potentially have like a 4-minute straight sequence of nothing but fighting back and forth because, you know, heroes fall back, they heal, they don't, you can't quite finish them off, they buy back, they TP in. I could definitely see that happening this game.
I could also see, yeah, how I could see LV just kind of running over them with Liquid Fire. Jakiro, is he being played as a core, by the way? I wasn't even looking at LV's lineup because I was so, no, he's not. Sorry if you already mentioned that, but I was just like, wow, that's an anti-mage pick. But the only thing I fear for TongFu, well, only thing, one among many, is that they just get run over. Like, they're not very good at D-pushing. Doom doesn't really do much. These supports kind of, I mean, I guess they're okay, but anti-mage sure isn't going to do anything. Panda without Blink is not going to do anything. So if they have a really bad early game, I think that they're just not going to do anything in team fights.
Well, how about a mid Abaddon? Because that's what we're seeing right now. And yeah, you don't see this all that much outside of pub games. He actually put his very first point in a Curse of Avernus, so he's going to be harassing U9 as much as he possibly can. How do you feel about this mid Abaddon pick?
Well, it was fine until he got his passive. Like, he could have just got his shield and just stood there and not been scared at all, but now he's actually not doing too bad in the right-click battle. Oh, he could maybe kill him. Oh, nope, he's not going to. But, yeah, just so I say that, I guess it's not so bad. This passive not doing too bad from the mid lane. But anyway, to truly answer your question, I think it's weird. Obviously, I've never seen it before. I've seen Abaddon as a carry, but not really in mid. I just don't know, like, as levels progress, if he can really contest the farm of Brew.
Right.
Brew is normally quite good against melee heroes.
Well, Abaddon is always just, at least in the professional games that I've watched and evidently you've watched, he's just so valuable with so few levels for the most part. I mean, his abilities are just so good at accomplishing a lot without giving him this much priority. So if you're going to give him this much priority, you had better get a big return on it. And that's always the question, is how do you transition and guarantee that this investment is worthwhile? While that goes on in mid, let's take a look at the offlaners, and this Doom is hidden and has to TP out. He just had to eat his way through as he found himself in a very bad situation. So he's going to have to hobble on back to lane while LV continues to farm up ZYF. Up at top, Kabu's supporting the anti-mage, and the anti-mage at 7 CS is doing what he should be doing. So roughly a wash there in terms of offlaners. Whisper did get run out, has 0 CS as of right now. Level-wise, though, he's still sitting at level 1, as is the Doom. So this is going to be a tough game for those offlaners.
Yeah, very successful force out from TongFu. Silencer's actually level 2 with his glaives and his last word up. So totally zoned him out, didn't get anything at all. And anti-mage is free farming, so success here in the early game from TongFu. Obviously, Doom had a TP out and isn't really getting anything either, but I think Timbersaw, it's kind of worse. Like, Doom can catch up naturally with Devour and everything. Speaking of Doom, could be in trouble. This is early TP coming in, actually, from the Ogre.
They need to get a kill. If they're going to send the Ogre down like this, if they can get something out of it, hell, LV is not even vacating. They're going to go right behind the tier 1. So they forced the glyph out, and this is one of the strengths of that Jakiro pick, and one reason I love him as a support or a core. At the same time, we've got action up at top, and Whisper's very low. Last word does proc, and they're going to get the first blood as the anti-mage tallies that easily. There's going to be a late room pickup of a DD from LV. They've got Demon standing on it now. But even though they rotate the Ogre down here, I thought that was going to free the Timbersaw up to get some XP. Instead, they don't get anything out of it. And the first blood ends up going to TongFu anyway. So not that bad of an exchange in terms of rotations.
Yeah, it's fine. Like, I see this so many times where an offlaner will try to get kind of greedy when they have a huge wave coming their way, and they want to get all the experience. But I think it's good for the team to understand that that experience needs to be had, even if it's split up between two heroes. So I don't want you to die. At the very least, we can get all this experience coming our way. So I think that's fine. Top lane, when they got that first blood, it was like everything that went wrong, that could have gone wrong, went wrong for Timbersaw. He got nuked actually by the Satyr creep, however you say it, Satyr creep.
Satyr.
and it
That's how I say
did a lot of damage to him right at the perfect time. So
LPC waiting the 4-min rune. That's going to be a bounty at bottom. Whisper will get his hands on an illusion. So as of right now, top lane for LV is completely empty. And U9 will happily fill his bottle with that bounty rune. Down at bottom, we can see the Slark continuing to just peck away at the creeps. I'm surprised they're not putting more pressure onto this tower, actually. They forced that one rotation out. And this is just one of the strengths, again, of the Jakiro. He's got 2 points into liquid fire now, which is, it piles up so damn quickly. Like, if they just start shoving waves, and with this lineup, a Witch Doctor, a Jakiro, who is fairly well leveled, as well as a Slark, it's tough for them to come back, even with 2 heroes, and reliably push that out without risking a dive. So I feel like they could be putting a little more pressure here. You agree?
I do, but I think when you have a 4/5 Jakiro, that your liquid fire just isn't as impressive as it is when you get the solo experience in an off lane. They're definitely trying to answer your question positively by pushing this right now, and it looks like they probably will get it. I don't know if there's going to be a response from the supports. Actually, they don't have TP, so this probably will go down. But if this is a trade tower for tower, it's clearly going to favor TongFu having the more late game, or much more late game oriented lineup with the anti-mage. I just think it's so weird they have an Abaddon in mid and not having a THT or the Jakiro top. Their lineup looked so good at first, but then they did something really weird.
There's going to be the cast thrown out. They still want the tower. One more auto attack will do it. Never mind, the creep gets it. So they tried to rotate Demons up in time to try to save it, but he only had enough mana for one cast. Whisper was watching on from a distance, but couldn't risk going in and trying to disrupt things. So I agree with you. I think that actually works out well for TongFu. And that's kind of what I was talking about, is they were just kind of holding the lane fairly static for a little while there at bottom. And even if you just get the wave close enough to be pecking at it with liquid fire for a little while longer, it's a little tougher for TongFu to push as effectively because they don't have an ability quite like that. Anyway, we are beginning to see the lanes come apart a little bit. Kabu's level 4.5. Level 6 for him going to be of paramount importance. And speaking of level 6, U9 found his.
Well, ZYF has a lot to put on his shoulders, actually. Like, he's going to have to get really active once he gets a big item like Blink, because this AM is going to be insanely farmed come, like, 13 minutes. Like, he's going to have his Battle Fury, and the thing I fear as a whole from LV's lineup is, like, how do they stop him? How do they actually catch him? Their means of initiation are pretty poor. It's basically Slark if he gets a Blink Dagger, when he does. Other than that, it's a lucky Ice Path. And, like, Witch Doctor Cask is not that impressive. And you're not going to get a timely Yules on the Jakiro because he's being played as a support. So, yeah, I think they have an inherent weakness in their lineup, as they have nothing to deal with this anti-mage once he gets online.
Doom is dead. Found himself out of position in bottom lane. Now Inflame could be in trouble. Uses his Aphotic Shield. He did have help waiting behind, and you know, you can tell they just want to go on U9 so badly. He's got help from the Ogre, though. He's already shown himself. They've got 3 here already in position. It's just so hard to commit to any kind of a fight against the Brewmaster at this stage, and they're even now dewarding, so trying to put LV Gaming into the dark. But like you said, I mean, there are some options that I think LV is going to have for the anti-mage. A Yules on Jakiro is going to be so important. Like, he needs to survive a couple of fights, maybe get a couple of kills, maybe even get left in a lane by himself if they just want to sit back and try to farm the Slark for a bit. If they can get a Yules up on him at a decent clip, they'll be in good shape, and they're going to need a Hex. Like, and that's obviously talking much later in the game, as there's not really a core that naturally builds it unless the Abaddon wants to go in that direction.
Yeah, I was just going to say, actually, one funny thing from NEL and IXDL that Broodstar would do is, when Abaddon was popular, he would just literally go Brown Boots Hex. Now, I'm not saying that that's what he probably will do or should do, but yeah, it's definitely necessary here. But I agree with you. I think giving space to the Jakiro is very important this game.
Oh, LPC comes out and is going to get caught. There's going to be a Abaddon's borrowed time proc and a brew split. They're going to try to focus on Whisper. Whisper has a Timber Chain ready. He will go ahead and use it, makes it to the high ground. They need to get something out of this. We see the Storm aspect did toss the Abaddon into the air. Whisper's down below half health. Inflame the same way. They're splitting up and going in different directions. Doom should be able to secure this kill. No, the Witch Doctor there in the right time. Now a nice 3-man Ice Path as DDZ's in the right place at the right time, and the cat's barking at the dog as LV seems to have them on the run. U9 going to head to the high ground. LPC very low. They're not going to be able to catch him. Slark missed on a pounce, and the Ice Path there to follow it up. That is a tremendous misstep for TongFu. That first very early game split from a brew, it's almost money in the bank. You guarantee a kill, you guarantee a dive. Instead, they spend it, end up losing just the brew, but they wasted a lot of time. And now ZYF right on top of Kabu, going to work, uses the pounce after the Dark Pact and make it another kill. 3-1 now, LV's lead.
That was just... I don't know if U9's not comfortable playing Panda, but he did not micro his Pandas at all. Like, he popped it, and then the Fire and Earth Panda were just sitting there, not even attacking. And then you could see him kind of like... You could watch him, like, fumbling through, where's my blue Panda? And then he sent it afterwards to try to Yule somebody. But the other two just sat there for, like, 5 seconds. And then, excuse me... I mean, it was a pretty big deal, so especially as you mentioned, it was the first Panda ulti of the game, so definitely should have been a big fight there. A 2-for-0 exchange, in my opinion, for TongFu, but it ends up being a 1-for-0 in favor of LV.
Yeah, and now they're able to pressure this tower too, knowing that Brew's ult is going to be on cooldown, not quite a minute, but just long enough. Doom, oh, he's not even level 6, so they don't have to worry about Doom right now. I thought he would have hit 6 amidst all the chaos and when they fell back and farmed a bit. But with this Liquid Fire, now 3 points into it, Macro Pyre's there if they want to cover their tracks right here. Wouldn't surprise me if he tossed it just to make sure that if they try to engage back out, they'll have to engage through it. He's hanging on to it for now. Irrelevant, though. They're going to end up getting the tier 1. So the nice thing about this, though, is LV is committing a lot of manpower, 3-4 heroes at a time, to accomplishing these objectives, and that's freeing the map up for the Anti-Mage. Anti-Mage is getting very close to completing a Battle Fury, but it looks like Slarkwood doesn't mind farming either, as he's picked up a Midas.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's okay. Like, again, I'm always a fan of Midas, so I'm usually never gonna say no, but that's fine. And I think that ZYF is such a capable player. Like, I talked about him in the pregame, but this guy has really impressed me most in any team that we've seen from the Eastern scene. Seems like he just always knows what to do in every given situation, and he's very reliable. So I think he knows what he's doing then if he picks up the Midas.
For sure. And LV continuing to keep the pressure on. One thing I hope we don't see, and that I think would be a mistake, and is a Midas on the Doom. I feel like they have to get him online. He needs a blink. He needs to be getting into these fights and shutting down the Timbersaw, or shutting someone down at least, because the team fight potential of LV with the Abaddon now at level 8, and we're still waiting to see what his first big item is going to be. I mean, he's gone treads and so on. He's actually picked up a bracer, so we'll see if he wants to go drums after that. But how do you feel about a Midas on the Doom? To me, it just feels like it would be way too greedy on a team that's going to get run over.
I agree with you. I think he needs to have some kind of team fighting item or something to help, and that just comes back to last picking the Anti-Mage into a lineup that was already on the air of greedy. So, yeah, I agree with you. And it also comes back to, like, if they wanted to go with the Anti-Mage strategy, something like an offline puck, I think, would have been way better. Or something that, as you mentioned, is something that can get a little bit more active early on that doesn't necessarily rely on a lot of gold. I mean, obviously Doom relies on Blink, but I think Puck can get active without a Blink.
Ooh, ZYF. Oh, they almost blocked him in, but he had Pounce. He popped the smoke, and it took a minute for them all to realize they were on top of each other. There's a haste route used by U9. In Flames coming up the river. Oh, indecisiveness. They're going to now engage into an ice path. U9 did get the blink off, so he's going to be able to get his split. Now we're going to see the Storm aspect toss the Abaddon into the air. All right, so that's not the real Slark. He's doomed, but I don't think they're too worried about him. There's the global silence now used for the first time this game. LPC is going to end up dead regardless. And that is not a good trade. Like, that was another weird sequence. And, you know, TongFu is... And, you know, you hate to belabor the point. This is really what we've seen out of them so far in D2L play. They're a damn good team, but just some of their engagements and very often little mistakes, which is actually kind of a big mistake, dooming a Slark illusion. It just hurts them so much.
I mean, he watched him pick up the illusion rune, and then he didn't even think twice. It was just like, doom. It was just really funny the way it kind of panned out. Yeah, that can't happen. That's like missing ravages on everybody or something. That's a pretty big deal. As you mentioned, it's like it seems like a little thing, but it's actually a really big thing.
Right.
One thing leads to another, especially when it's against a team that really capitalizes on small wins. They turn small wins into big wins. These are heroes like Jakiro, heroes like Abaddon. They really like to transfer something small into something much bigger. Well, especially against heroes like Anti-Mage. Heroes that get punished for that.
And we can see Demons by himself holding off the Anti-Mage's split push at bottom. They've got 2 heroes down here, and they're still not comfortable trying to dive in because they know the reaction will come very quickly. And then, you know, that's, again, another strength of the Jakiro pick. I couldn't have said it better myself. He turns little wins into big wins. He turns a slightly one team fight or a 1-for-1 exchange into a 1-for-1 plus a free tower, which is exactly what we just saw. And they know that if they try to dive that Witch Doctor, as appetizing a target as he is, between the Abaddon coming in potentially and the Timbersaw coming in, they can just leave the Jakiro alone at top and he can sell out on the tower. And even if he dies, it's still going to be a win if they waste your time. So at 14 minutes in, LV has got all the momentum in the world. The gold lead is still very much in range at just plus 2,000, and the experience is negligible completely, but the Anti-Mage is going to start running out of maps soon. That's my big worry.
Yeah, exactly. Once you lose access to your jungle, it becomes a different ball game. He does have the Battle Fury, which makes it a lot easier to farm in spots that he normally couldn't, but this is what I'm talking about. Blink Dagger on Slark, it's if they can keep up like the pressure onto Anti-Mage, they don't even have to kill him, but just make him scared, and that will slow down his farm just mentally. Like he probably won't kill him here, ZYF, but like this is what I'm talking about. He's gonna instill the fear into this Anti-Mage.
There's a quick curse. Global Silence is at the ready. They're going to have to commit to a fight soon if they want to take it. This tower's just going to drop so quickly with no glyph. Here comes the Brew. They're going to go. There's going to be an Ice Path. Didn't catch anyone. LPC walked into it, but it doesn't matter. Global Silence goes off, and it's overlapped with the Doom. The Doom, however, is onto the Timbersaw, so he is just meat. He's going to end up dropping, and this looks to be, wow, that's a wasted ultimate from Demons. Inflame left kind of by himself now. There's an Ice Path to try to bail him out. Macro Pyre down as well. Inflame does still have borrowed time, so he's not going to give up. Now it's going to be Prog. Demons already used his ultimate, but he threw a cask. Now LPC, along with the Anti-Mage, trying to pursue him out. There's a beautiful Mana Void. They're going to end up losing the Anti-Mage at the end of it all, though, and now U9 could be in some trouble. It's a 2-for-2 exchange in what looked to be a guaranteed one fight for TongFu. ZYF going back behind the tower, using Shadow Dance, has Pounce up very shortly. Not going to commit to it, though. Also had the Blink. Instead, once again, a marginal exchange, something that was basically even. They take the tower nonetheless, and more importantly, their Anti-Mage died. All of their late-game hopes, not necessarily going up in smoke, but certainly being set back there.
And he died, like, ridiculously fast, just got blown up. And that was with all their ultis, like Silencer ulti, Brewmaster ulti, Doom ulti, and again, this comes back to Doom. He's got nothing, man. Again, if he wanted Midas, which I do agree with you, I think it would be a mistake, he's not even going to have it by the 18-minute mark, maybe.
ZYF playing some balls-out Dota as he goes deep and manages to start a fight that looks like they could win it again as well. They managed to get the Ogre Magi at least. Whisper's going to be able to extricate himself. Demons is right there, has his ultimate backup, throws the cask out. No follow-up from DDC that time. Behind the fight, though, we see Inflame and ZYF landing a pounce now on the U9. Kabu's up there, but again, nothing he can contribute. A little bit of right-click at most, 30 seconds until Global Silence is back up, and the Brewmaster is just not earning his keep. At this point, that's got to be, what, his third, fourth death, if not more? No, actually, he's only died twice, so not quite as bad as I had thought. Nonetheless, they are now rattling their saber at this mid-tier 3. Brew is down, will be back up in 20, and he'll have his ultimate up when he does come back up, but they're going to be able to at least peck away at this some if they want.
Yeah, just very nicely played. LV, they clearly had a strategy in mind. Like, yeah, the Abaddon mid was kind of weird. He was losing his lane as to be expected. They dominated top, but their plan was 5-man Dota, and that's what they're executing here, and it's working out quite nicely.
ZYF catches out the Doom. Doom does get the Doom off onto ZYF, but it's going to be wasted because he's going to end up dead at the back of it anyway. Now they can just back up and reset. They're going to be able to kite this out. No, U9 not going to let that happen. Has his ultimate up, at least grabs DDC, but DDC with that Yules that we said was so important, using it defensively instead of offensively this time. The whole time, though, Anti-Mage has been pressuring the top tier 2. So that's going to be enough to force LV off of the battlements, and now back to try to defend. Hell no, ZYF wants to go. Brew, oh, if they can get the Brew before, nope, he's still going to get his ultimate off. It was going to be very close. Now ZYF likely to pay the price. Has Shadow Dance, doesn't matter. Global Silence, pretty good ability last I checked. And finally, we see TongFu capitalize and get an unmitigated win.
Yep, it was unfortunate that they didn't have the Abaddon to fight with them. They knew that he was TPing, and that was kind of TongFu's key or tip to get in there and get something done. So that was good. Nice step in the right direction, but they're going to need a lot more. They're going to need more space for Anti-Mage. You should probably be pressuring the lane with Slark dead, I would imagine. Abaddon already left, and he's choosing to go in the jungle here. Kind of interesting. The Yule's coming out actually onto mid.
Actually did that a little bit backwards. Usually you want a Macro Pyre and then an Ice Path second. Instead did it the other way around. Didn't get quite as much damage as he would have wanted. That seems a little aggressive from Demons. Now that's going to be down, and now we've got TongFu back on the run. Or back putting LV on the run. Nice two-man Ice Path, though. That might be enough to save Demons. They're continuing to charge out. DDC has the Aphotic Shield on. There's going to be a Miscoil to try to keep Demons alive, and Animage happy to just take the kill and bail. So TongFu is beginning to get it together some. They looked a little haggard, looked a little sloppy in the first few fights, to put it mildly. But now in this mid lane, they're kind of putting a stake down and saying we own it. Doesn't look like LV's willing to respect it, though, as they're just going to continue to run it to tier 3.
I swear, man, this tooltip on the Silencer's last word says it does 300 damage, but I feel like it does so much more. Every single time I see it pop, I'm like, oh my god, that did so much damage. But yeah, Silencer's doing a lot of damage in these fights, and LV's still knocking at the door of TongFu.
And they're still going to town. ZYF's going to engage. They got Kabu from behind. He's down. U9 not going to have his ultimate for 40 seconds. ZYF does have Shadow Dance if he needs it. Not going to expend it yet. They're going to have a hard time keeping him off of this, and Animage is nowhere near that tier 2 bottom. Well, he's getting on it now. But still, they're going to end up losing racks here if he doesn't come back and fight. They're going to try to trade a tower, but I don't think this is going to be an acceptable trade. 12 seconds now on the Silencer before he's back up. And he's going to have Global Silence whenever he is back up. Brew does not have his ultimate for another 15, however. There's going to be the Yules and the Ice Path Macropyre. LPC down in a flash. And the Animage, again, going to town on the tier 2 and bottom lanes, just not going to matter that much, as they've just claimed this. This is going to be a dead Rax for sure, and they may back now. And yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. The tier 2 didn't even drop. So the Animage doing his best to split push, but his speed just not good enough. He does have a Yasha now on his way to a Manta. Do you feel like in 20 minutes, as much ground as TongFu's losing, that the Animage is making it up?
No, I don't. I don't think that because I don't think he does enough damage in these fights. The only kind of damage he's doing is if he gets lucky by getting a Mana Void off onto a hero that has all of his HP lost. There was a good one that we saw in the Witch Doctor, but right before the Mana Void came out, he had like a 10 charge stick or something like that, and it actually didn't do too much damage as a result of that. So if they don't have lost mana, I don't think Anti-Mage, even with a Manta up, can do too much damage.
TongFu's moving out as 5. And we're going to have Inflame spotted. That's U9 right on top of him. He's going to be doomed. And he's going to get the Aphotic Shield off, though. And the Borrowed Time. Now, there's the Global Silence. This is a little weirdly timed. They're going to have one toss in the air. Brew does use his split. I don't think they're going to get enough out of it. LPC trying to get back on top of this. DDC winding up for an Ice Path. Ends up getting tossed up by the Storm aspect. Now there's going to be the Doom. And ZYF will end up dead because of it. Now there's going to be an Ice Path, caught a bunch. Let's see if they can follow it up. Beautiful ulti from Demons, and 2 gone in a flash as LV loses ZYF but manages to get some payback. And I don't know. Do you think they can take Roche off of that? Nah, not without ZYF. No way.
Well, we'll see. They're walking into it. I mean, Abaddon does do some decent right-click damage, although he only has 1 in his Curse of Abner, so we'll have to see. But, yeah, as long as they're controlling the Slark, their fights actually aren't being coordinated that badly. Like the Global Silence, that one was a little bit weird. The Doom came out, it was very effective though that time. Yep. And I would say at this stage, it's kind of hard because you want to Doom the Abaddon just because you're supposed to. Like it's so good to Doom an Abaddon because if you do burst him down, his ult won't trigger. That's probably the ideal target, but if he's, like that fight we saw, the segregation of Abaddon and the Slark. So, yeah, either the Doom or the Abaddon. I think those are your primary targets for this Doom.
Well, ZYF is back up just in time to help finish off this Roshan. And during that last teamfight, I actually thought I saw the Doom go off earlier than it did. Thought I saw that it was used on a Batten. He ended up hanging on to it, and like you said, it was fairly effective. Speaking of Doom, he's going to blink into the woods and get out of trouble. That's going to be a fresh Aegis that is picked up. At the same time, Anti-Mage is doing what work he can, taking down the tier 2 atop and continuing to add to his inventory. Now we're going to have Whisper right on top of him. He's going to be able to blink away whenever he feels like it. Takes a few shots on his way out, but we'll be safe.
Yep, and I think the Timbersaw actually has enough for his Bloodstone if he wants it. Yeah, I didn't even realize it, but yeah, it has the blink before that, so pretty decent farm here for Whisper, considering how awful of a start he had. He's recovered quite nicely with all these towers.
Still, just 23 minutes in. As much action as we have seen, feels like a bit of a longer game. It's going to be a mech pickup on the Jakiro, so his issues with gold have really been non-existent. Has up his Tranks, his Yules, and his Mechanism, so they're going to be able to just run at the rack some more. And to be honest, like we're getting, like this is what worries me. Anytime you see an anti-mage, he's going to come online in a big way soon. He'll have his Manta done right this second, actually. Still feel like he needs a little bit more to really be the threat he wants to be, especially in the face of ZYF, who looks like he's going straight up Scotty. He's already added 1 ultimate orb, and up at top, we're actually in Flame, just flat out engaging the anti-mage, but being knocked down quite low. No one's coming to help, and yeah, Mana Void finishes him off. That's a beautiful amount of gold for him, as he even got a lot of last hits out of it. So, yeah, that's just a kind of a feed, and Anti-Mage will be happy to take it. Now he's going to go to work on Whisper, and Whisper has help on the way. He's going to go ahead and use his Manta. There's going to be an Ice Path off the mark. If he had waited and used and then Ice Path, they might have had a chance to kill him, but as it stands, not the case.
That's a pretty scary kill, actually, because that's showing you, and there comes the Doom, actually, on ZYF. If they get this, this is massive. They're actually right back in the game if they get this kill. It looks like they are. The damage coming out from Anti-Mage is actually insane.
Yep, they're going to get the Aegis, and most likely more. Rest of his team is spread out, so LV... Oh, wow. Wow, that was quick. And ZYF is going to survive because of it. And honestly, LV might go fight because of that, too. The global silence now being down, it's going to be down for 2 solid minutes. They may want to take a run at something.
And Doom is down. Yeah, I imagine if they either wait for a while for like the next set of items, like Scotty onto the Slark, which actually I think he has it right now. Yeah, he has a Scotty now, so I think now 100% is the time to go fight, finish off another set of racks.
Yeah, they're heading that way. And let's see if they want to go top. It looks like that's going to be the call as they're slicing through the jungle. And that was, I mean, you can't blame them. It's so tough as a silencer there. You have to help out. That kill on ZYF, as you mentioned, would have really just reset this game in so many ways. There's going to be a Scepter done on the Brewmaster. Just in time. Scotty, though, picked up and finished by ZYF as well. Shadow Dance is going to be available in 2 seconds. He's going to go right on into LPC. With the amount of mobility LV has, TongFu has to be conscious of that. They can just lose a hero in the blink of an eye. Buyback from the Ogre. Glyph deployed. Very important fight on both sides. Could be your ball game if LV wins. Now U9's going to go in. Gets the split off after a nice clap. There's going to be an Ice Path, though, that catches a lot of the Pandas, and they're being melted down very quickly. It's just the Earth Panda now standing. LPC back up. Now, keep in mind, he already bought back. If they get him, he's down for good. Doom on the ZYF in the meantime, though. Whisper's there to clean it up. Mech gets ZYF and the whole team back up in decent shape. And this is going to be at least 2 racks down for sure. The mid, by the way, what remained has gone as well. I think the creeps got it. And the Basher comes out on the Anti-Mage, but is it going to be too little too late? This rack's being pecked away at quite a bit, but they should be able to defend it, one would think. But that's another big win for LV, and it's such a shame. I mean, trying to fight with their composition when you don't have global silence and you didn't even get the kill you wanted the last time you used it, it's just crippling, and we saw it right there.
I think Anti-Mage probably should have come back instead of just trying to split push. It's a hard decision to make, especially in the heat of the moment, and it might not have even been his decision, so I can't fault him for that. But I think after he realized, I'm not pushing fast enough, I'm not going to get this trade quickly enough to get back into the fight, because the fight was already over by the time he decided to leave and stop attacking the rack. So I think it's a hard call to make, but I believe also on top of that, fighting with a fresh new item like an Ag Scepter on the Panda, I think is something that would be a little bit more beneficial than trying to go for a split push. Again, if he was doing more damage into those racks and getting it at a faster rate, I would say go all for it, but he just simply wasn't.
Yep. Well, we've seen how much damage he's actually doing to heroes. It is considerable.
Exactly.
And there's going to be a cask. Multiple teleports coming in. No way to catch him, though. He's just going to keep on running, and he had help behind him. Roshan likely to be our next major battleground, I would think, as he's going to be back up in about 3.5 minutes now. And we'll see if either team wants to accomplish or take any risks before that time. Doom's hiding out over in the woods here. And the Anti-Mage is right up there, too. They may go for a kill here. If they can get the Doom on a ZYF, perfectly positioned right now. Yep, he's going right in. Oh, he missed with the stomp. And the Anti-Mage came in as well. So a little bit of a misplay there, and it cost them the chance for a kill onto the Slark.
I believe he has buyback, though. I have to double check this. What is the key for buyback? It's I. Okay, yeah, he would have had buyback, cool. So still, obviously, kind of an unfortunate mishap right there, but it's kind of hard animation to hit, honestly. It's very slow and clunky. And again, this goes back to ZYF being such a good player. I mean, this guy is really fast with his fingers, so yep.
Whisper runs the Anti-Mage back out. One thing that TongFu's doing well is keeping the lane sufficiently pushed, so it's very difficult for LV to really commit to a big fight unless they just get a free one on LPC. Not enough damage output, he'll get away. Below that, U9 still just hanging around. And Kabu got the hell out of dodge. U9 did go ahead and blink after taking a few more CS. Ice Path in the general right direction, but still would not have caught him. And this is just more time for this Anti-Mage. He's like even engaging. Oh, he got the bash! He got a kill on Whisper after the bash, and now that's not your base. There you go. He blinks and TP's out. And he is just being an absolute nightmare for LV Gaming right now. And LV, after taking that fight at top, looked like they might have been in position to start to try to think of closing this game out. Instead, the Anti-Mage is just keeping them pinned back on their own side of the map.
And that was a wicked an unstoppable streak there for Anti-Mage too. So if he wants to and save up a little bit of gold for the Abyssal, obviously buyback is very important, and he will probably do that. I think this next fight, first of all, he absolutely has to fight it, unless it's clear he's going to get a better trade by not fighting, which at this point being down 3 racks, I don't think it is. Or I should say down 2 racks. But I think this next fight, he's also going to do so much damage just because he's almost level 20. He's almost got his Abyssal. He can buy back in his base if he needs to. So he can just be very aggressive next time LV pushes. And they will push again because they're on a little bit of a timer.
Morpheus is fighting Neo as ZYF caught him coming up. There's a global silence. He's just going to go one-on-one with him, and they got the bash. ZYF had just bought a basher, and they bring him down. And that was, yeah, like they both hung around and both could have disengaged at any point. The global silence goes off, and it was just an unbelievably fortuitous bash for ZYF. What's the old saying? Luck is when preparation meets opportunity, or maybe just a basher meets opportunity. That's what happened.
Well, basher, is very important.
What?
What happened?
He just split it. He spent his split on the Demons, and Demons has got help on the way. Demons is not even dropping here. Here comes the Doom. They spent the Doom on it as well. That seems way aggressive, and granted, he does have a Scepter, so I guess it's going to be off cooldown really soon. But little do they know, Roche is coming up very soon as well, and I just hope they don't wind up in a situation where they end up wanting that split right now.
Yeah, Basher's very good on Slark, especially in this game. It's pretty much standard and staple, but it's also very good on Slark for the reason that, hold that thought, is LPC is actually just hanging out here.
Yeah, U9's just dead now. This is what I was talking about.
Oh boy.
They spent their 2 big ultimates, the Doom and the Split, on killing a Witch Doctor that really his absence, I mean, Demons has done okay, but he hasn't had the hugest impact this game. And it's getting to the point where, yeah, ZYO is going to go clear up a free racks, and in bottom, he's got his team already shoving in bottom. Anti-Mage is coming back up right now. Brewmaster Split still is 60 seconds off, though. And yeah, they're going to want this badly, and they know it. I mean, Global Silence is still 40 seconds off cooldown as well. I think they just win here.
Well, they have a glyph. Here we go. Oh my god, that Ogre just got obliterated.
Yeah, I think they just win. I don't know what they can do. Even the Doom. Well, Doom is up, at the very least. But they know. They know U9 doesn't have it. There's going to be the Doom on the ZYF. Now Anti-Mage is going to come out. Missed Ice Path. That'll open up an opportunity for them. Whisper's going to die in a flash. Inflame's right there, trying to guard ZYF. Storm Aspect lifts the Jakiro. I'm guessing that was him and not his own Yules. Ice Path did catch a couple, but ZYF is ready to re-engage now as the Doom is worn off. The Anti-Mage can do nothing but run away. It's a 1-for-2 exchange so far. So at the very least, TongFu has held serve. Demons now being engaged upon. And here comes ZYF. Missed with the pounce. If he hit him with the pounce, he maybe kills him. Needs a bash. Not going to get it. U9 there to help his teammate out, and they're even going to force staff him away. U9, oh, nice cast. It'll get maybe one more bounce. Nope, never mind. Kabu, though, dead behind it. Now U9 with Primal Split finally back available. Is going to try to use it and get something out of it. ZYF is just so tanky. He feels free. Just look at LPC melt, regardless of multicast, regardless of anything else. Anti-Mage now with the BKB wants to come back out and try to make something in this fight happen. ZYF still alive, but just barely. Whisper makes it to the high ground, and ZYF trying to make his way out will finally be brought down. So a lot spent and a lot invested, but the 2 racks they had to keep up are still up. Their base is a shambles, but the game goes on.
Yeah, I don't know if that was an intentional blink there by U9, but he blinked right in front of the Slark after he came out of his ultimate and actually stopped his pounce there from getting away. So nicely done there. Yeah, and they do hold the base. Anti-Mage lives on, and he will have, as you mentioned, BKB. Okay, so more defensive route. And did he buy back? It's such a crazy fight. I don't know. No, he still has buyback, so that's really good for him. But one of the things about Slark, though, is if you look in that little tooltip when he steals the agility, he was stealing upwards of like 60 agility in the midst of a team fight, and that really helps your bash chance too because you're attacking that much faster.
Right.
So it's actually a very, very good item on Slark the Basher in that respect.
Well, we're going to see Roshan drop. Nice thing about having a Vlad's on an Anti-Mage. Very easy to do this. And we'll see where it's going to end up going. He's going to have to drop something if he wants to pick it up.
Probably his Vlad's.
You think he'll drop the Vlad's?
Or he's going to give it to someone. Okay, he has buyback. I guess he wants to give it to Doom. Interesting. Okay.
Doom's still starving, as he is less farmed than the Jakiro is this game.
Oh, no.
There it is. There's that Yules, but he BKBs. Now Whisper could be in trouble. They're going to try to mech him and keep him alive. Here comes ZYF, though. Got the bash. BKB will be expiring soon, but for now, uses the Manta. There's going to be the pounce. He does manage to blink away from it. DDC, wound up for the Ice Path and missed it. Blink in 1 second. They got the bash. Do they have the damage? No, not quite. He's burning slowly but surely. Demons is there, and the pounce is on the money. As ZYF manages to track down the elusive Anti-Mage. They had him dead to rights about 2 or 3 times. Finally, though, they managed to bring him down. He's down for 72 seconds. Does have buyback, as you mentioned, though.
Yeah, that was pretty silly and unnecessary, though. Like, he shouldn't have had to do that, and he shouldn't have had to buy back. He had multiple times where he could have disengaged. It's unfortunate. He should have just disengaged the second he saw how much damage the Mana Void did to the Timber and how it just didn't do enough. But nonetheless, he's going to have to buy back here, I imagine, right about now. Right about now.
They're going to try to engage out of Subterfuge over on the left. They've got their Doom and LPC smoked up. There's going to be a Yules used by DDC now. U9 right out in front, though. And everyone's kind of holding on. There's going to be the Primal Split, but it's right into an Ice Path. They're going to try to follow it up on the DDC. Global Silence deployed at the same time. Silence was used on ZYF. Now Whisper ready to re-engage. They're a little clogged up coming uphill here. The Doom was used as mentioned, so he can do nothing but hang around. There's a good ulti from Demons. Nothing there to stop it. Inflame is still up and strong, too, and DDC still somehow surviving. The play from their Abaddon has really helped keep their teammates alive. We're going to see the Jakiro buy a little bit more time. In the meantime, LPC does end up dying off camera. We're going to see a Mana Void that finishes off the Jakiro. Coming back in is the Anti-Mage. Inflamed his target, but ZYF ready to re-engage. He's going to be able to get the Doom for free. Now Inflame with the borrowed time about to expire. Might be in trouble. BKB used. Fresh usage now from the Anti-Mage, still trying to chase down Whisper. Whisper, by the way, bought a Ghost Scepter. U9 is going to die behind this, so the Anti-Mage was chasing a target he couldn't even attack. And now, caught with a bash, he's going one-on-one with Inflame and ZYF. No! Whisper, the target he chased and couldn't bring down, flies in like a superhero to help clean him up. That's a 5-man wipe that's going to be most likely 2 racks down and very likely a GG forthcoming.
And even look at right now, it's toggling down very, very quickly. Now it's down to 60, but that was up to stealing 100 agility. And it's not just damage and agility for himself, but that's taking it away from the other hero. So very nicely done. ZYF, again, never ceases to amaze me with his carry potential. And just fantastic play from LV overall. Interesting draft. It's kind of cool to see an Eastern team draft in this way. You don't normally see them do this. Normally it's the Naga versus the TB, or in this case would have been like Anti-Mage versus Morphling, or something like that. But it's fun to see a different kind of style coming out from LV.
Yeah, LV, man, they just look so good every time we have a chance to cast them. And now, just one game away from being 4-0 in D2L Eastern Division play. I mean, there comes a point of critical mass. I mean, if you can get 4 wins, you're basically guaranteed to at least be in the bubble race. If you can get 5, 6 wins, you're just about guaranteed a spot in Vegas. So we got to see how they're going to end up finishing this series and playing things out. But if you're watching at home, as if you're hearing my voice, I guess it's kind of a guarantee you are, make sure you put this team on your calendar, man. Watch them play because they are an absolute blast to observe. 10, 3, and 13 for ZYF, as you mentioned, showing that crazy carry potential. Whisper on the Timbersaw went 9-4. Nice performance from him. On the other side, 0-10 on LPC's Ogre Magi. We saw him just melt time and time and time again. In the Anti-Mage, I mean, he played well, but 10-4, still not enough. His GPM was the tops on the board by about 50 even over top of ZYF. But, and I actually feel like he did a pretty good job split pushing, but overall, the play of LV was just in a different realm.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Kabu played very well in the beginning. His zoning of Whisper. I mean, Whisper, it looked like he had a great game, but in the beginning, he was getting decimated. And that's all due to Kabu, just the damage from the glaives. And this again, the second time, I don't want to harp, but U9, I don't think the Brewmaster is his most comfortable hero. that last split as well, I just saw pandas just sitting there, like not moving at all. And you can't afford to have that with such a great hero pick in Brewmaster, and especially when you buy the Ags too to upgrade it. So
that's game 1 now behind us, and we're ready to look ahead to game 2. I'm your host, Aaron AC Chambers. Thanks so much for being a part of the broadcast, guys. The voice on the other end, his name is Trout, and yeah, we got a lot of Dota, not just tonight. We already have one best of 3 done. Looking ahead throughout the rest of this week, we're actually still off of Western Play tomorrow. That was just moved, so if you were planning to join us for that series, go ahead and pencil it in for another time. But ramping up over the next 48 hours, we're talking 30, 40 best of 3s that'll be played over a 10 to 14-day stretch. So make sure you hit follow. You're on twitch.tv/D2L. We want to have you back for every minute of that action. Game 2 coming up between LV and TongFu, but make sure